Welcome to Conversations. I'm Angela Wilder, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Karen Cuthrell, the founder of The Feeling Friends. Karen, so good to see you.
Hey, Wilder, how are you?
I'm great.
Good.
I'm really excited to find out about The Feeling Friends.
Okay.
But first, I want to find out something about you. Now, we're in Winston-Salem. But did you grow up here in Winston-Salem?
I grew up in Winston-Salem on the south side in Bellevue at a wonderful street called Burgundy Street. If you want to go outside and Google me, that's where I am on Burgundy Street. I hope you can't find it now, but I grew up on Burgundy Street.
Okay, and I know that you are a Tar Heel.
Yes, go Heels.
So when you left the University of North Carolina, did you stay in Winston-Salem or did life take you somewhere else?
I was determined not to come back to Winston-Salem when I left UNC Chapel Hill. Therefore, we used to sleep in the business school at nighttime to sign up for an interview with a company. And because I wanted to leave North Carolina, I wanted to see the world. My mother had taken me to New York City when I was 16 years old to see The Wiz. And I saw big New York City, and that's where I wanted to go because I knew there was a place out there that had my heart. And so I interviewed with a lot of companies and made an emotional decision to move to New York City. That's how I accepted a job, because my first 6 months were going to be in New York City, and that's how I accepted employment. It was all emotional.
Okay.
And I realized now that wasn't the best decision for me, but I did it. It was an emotional decision, and I did it, and I loved it. That was the year Dreamgirls came out, A Soldier Story with Denzel Washington. There was so much black theater on New Broadway that year that it was amazing. I must have seen Dreamgirls at least 3 times. Oh, and there was a one-woman act show there that year, and she called herself Whoopi.
Oh, okay. Well, quite successful.
Quite successful.
Yes.
And I said, this woman has talent. And she is, I saw that about 3 times. This woman has talent. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And it was Whoopi Goldberg. So 1982 was a huge year.
So you say it was an emotional decision and that it wasn't the best decision.
No.
But it sounds like it turned out to be a great decision in the long run.
It did. It was an emotional decision because I wanted to leave Winston-Salem, but I moved to New York City where I knew no one. And so I was used to familiar support, and so I had no support, and it was just me up there, and that's a big city to be up there by yourself. After I left there, I moved to Washington, D.C., and because my job transferred me there, and once again, I was in a city where I knew no one, and those were all emotional decisions that I wish I had really thought out a little better. Maybe I would have chosen a city where I knew at least someone, that I had some family and friends that I could communicate with.
Yes.
Because it was a very lonely situation. And when you're in a lonely situation, you begin to meet people that can prey on you.
Okay.
Okay, that can really prey on you because you don't have that support around you. And so I was young, I was kind of cute, and so I had a lot of people trying to prey on me, but I met a man there who understood what was going on and would kind of keep people back away from me. He became like a big brother. So that for moving to a city as a young female, I needed that family or a big brother, someone to step in and time to tell me this is good, this is bad. Because I was in Winston-Salem, very naive.
Yes.
Very naive in the big city.
Well, you know, I'm a Winston-Salem born and bred as well, and a Tar Heel.
Yes.
And I also have that same experience of leaving North Carolina and going to a big city.
Yours was a real big city.
Yes. Well, you know, New York, they're on New York, LA, they're on par. So you talk about people preying on you. And what kind of skills, though, did you have to develop, or did you develop because you had to learn how to protect yourself from people preying on you?
I really had to listen to, I really had to start listening to the Holy Spirit talking to me and putting up, though, and because I hear God now, and it goes back, I started hearing Him then in those situations. I was in a real upscale beauty shop, hair salon, as they call them now, in New York. And a man came in, very upscale, a man came in, saw me, and asked me would I mind doing some modeling that night. And I wasn't a model, had never modeled before. And I said, well, not really. And he made the offer sound so well when he said he was going to pay $10,000 for the night. This is 1982. 1982. And so the hair who owned the salon, she said, it's legitimate. You can bring your mother or a friend with you. But, you know, it sounded legitimate. And so I went on and I thought about it. We didn't have cell phones to call anybody. And the Holy Spirit said, no, don't do it. And so I called him back and said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to pass it now. But $10,000, I was making $19,000 a year. And that was a lot of money back then, but I have $10,000 in one night. So I listened to my inner voice and the Holy Spirit. And so come to find out that it was going to be nude modeling. The pictures weren't going to be shown anywhere. But if I hadn't had that voice, you know, that barometer up to tell me no, I would have done it. That's why when the thing came out about Vanessa Williams, I understood totally. I said, here we are judging a 16-year-old who did something at 16. The brain does not finish forming until we're 25. Let's make that very clear. So we're judging something that happened. It's her 16 or 17-year-olds. And I said, I understand it. I know how it happened to her because I lived that. The only thing I just said no when she said yes. So that's the kind of skill.
And you know, that's another point in common that we have because I too, as a cheerleader at North Carolina, got offers to do things, and I did some modeling as well. Fortunately, no nude modeling, but I mean, there were always those opportunities if you wanted to say yes to them. So you leave Chapel Hill, you go to New York,
and then DC.
You go to DC. And then what happens in your life?
I ended up becoming manager of human resources for the Washington Convention Center. And I end up getting engaged and getting married. And
how old were you when you married?
26.
Okay.
Too young. The brain had just finished forming. I needed some more time. Because that was an emotional decision as well. I'm making all these emotional decisions based on the fact that my parents separated when I was 8 and divorced soon after that. And so through a lot of therapy, I have learned that I was left with all these emotions that I didn't know what to do with. And they weren't very friendly emotions. They were hurt, rejection, you know, abandonment, fear. Those are the emotions, unworthiness. My father was a financial father. He paid that check every month. But emotionally, he was absent. It was an emotional desert for me. And we know the importance of what little girls need for their dads, and so I didn't have that. And so all through my life, I carried all those emotions with me. So when I decided to get married to someone who I believed that I love, and I did love, it wasn't a very good emotional decision.
So in hindsight, do you think you were looking for daddy?
I married my dad. I wasn't looking for him, I found him.
Oh, wow.
He was older. He was financially stable, very great with finances. He provided all those things that I wanted my dad to provide. And so I wasn't looking, I found him. I was on a quest, not knowing I was on a quest. And I found him, and so that came, marrying your daddy comes with a whole lot of things. A whole lot of things that goes along with that. You're married to your father. And so all those traits that my father exhibited when it came to real life, considering being a womanizer, the things that my mother divorced him for, I married with my husband.
And how far into the marriage did these things start to manifest?
I've been married 3 months.
Wow. And how long did you stay married?
17 years. Why? Because I didn't want my daughter growing up in a divorced family. I didn't want my daughter having to, my mother worked, having to go to someone's house after school and wait for my mother to pick her up. I didn't want my daughter, the list goes on. So my mother was a great mom, she was a single mom, but I said the things that I didn't like, I would do better. So I sold my soul to live a Claire Huxtable life.
And now we all know
there was Bill.
That Claire Huxtable is just a figment of somebody's imagination.
Correct.
You know, it's interesting you talk about the generational repetition of behavior. I have a book right now I've got from the library talking about hand-me-down dreams. And talking about the identities that we
Hand-me-down dreams. I like that wild.
Yes, yes. I was drawn to it in the library, but I hear it and I see it in myself, and I hear it in your story too. So the marriage falls apart.
It fell apart the day I found out that he was cheating. A friend explained it to me, who's a therapist. She said your marriage flatlined that day, and no one had the tools to bring in resuscitation. No one called 911. So it flatlined 3 months into it. And so what I did, I just pushed all those emotions down because I watched my mother push all those emotions. Because going to Winston-Salem, we didn't talk about our feelings,
Yes.
So we just pushed all those emotions down, and they stayed there until they just erupted. And when they erupted, it was a volcano. It was a volcano.
And what did you do to survive the volcano? Or did you survive the volcano?
I survived the volcano. My daughter was diagnosed with depression at 6.
Okay.
Okay, and so that's how we get to the feeling friend. She was diagnosed with depression at 6. And I was stripped of my motherhood at that point because I was trying to do everything right, my own expectations. I had taught her all the words on the pre-K list. She knew all the words on the first grade list. She knew all the words on the kindergarten list.
You had a super kid. You made a super kid.
I made a super kid. She was in ballet. She loved all the dances. But as Girl Scout, I had a super kid diagnosed with depression.
Yes.
So you look at yourself, and we as black women go to, what could I have done better? Guilt, 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 guilt. But the therapist said, you got to get her to talk about her feelings. And I'm like, get her to talk about her feelings? I never thought about that because I don't even talk about my own. I don't know how to talk about my own.
So there's that interruption of the pattern. That generational thing has really, it's, I used to have a minister that saying it takes a village, but he used to say it takes a child to raise the village.
It does. It takes a child to raise the village. So that interruption right there, and I had to look at her, and, I had to put on my super mommy cape because that's what you do. And I said, please give me something. And at that time, when you can afford to buy anything, it didn't matter what it was. And the therapist gave me a hand puppet. It was the worst piece of mess I've ever seen in my entire. And I said, what am I supposed to do? She said, well, this is what I use as a psychologist. I said, this is going to do nothing for me. So I said, what does Lana like? What does Lana like? Lana likes music, characters, stories, to dance. I went to our music teacher and I said, I want you to write a song for me about confidence for little girls, because when you suffer from depression, her self-confidence, her self-worth was very low.
Right.
And so she wrote a song. The next night I paid her. She wrote a song that says, I can be what I want to be because I believe in me. Wow. She said, what next? I told her the next one. And she wrote the next one. I told the next one, she wrote them, now I'm shelling out money at this time.
Right.
And so when she wrote the 4th song, she came to me, she said, stop. She said, I have these characters in my head. And I said, what are they? And she named 6 characters. And that night on the phone, we named the other 6. And that's how the Feeling Friends were born. And we joined a partnership. And it was going to be great. The partnership was that she would handle the creative side and I would handle the business side because I could bring in the money for it, my own money and that kind of thing. And it was great until we got to the point where we had to put the partnership on dissolution.
Yes.
So that's like another, this is early on in my marriage, that's like another breakup.
Right, right.
A partnership breakup is a divorce.
Yeah, yes.
It's a divorce.
And it's a loss, too.
It's another loss.
It's something else to grieve.
It's a grieve. And I grieved that partnership heavily. But what came out of the partnership, she took her songs and her music, and I got all the trademarks and the characters.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one thing where you have to rebuild and reboot. Well, at the same time of rebuilding and rebooting, I'm watching my daughter just thrive with the Feeling Friends.
Okay.
It was very similar to the fact of the first time I went to France and I didn't speak the language.
Yes.
I didn't speak the language at all. And it's difficult going to a foreign country and not speaking the language. And that's what we ask children to do. We ask them to speak the feelings language, and they don't have the vocabulary.
Well, most of us don't have the
We
vocabulary.
We don't. Anytime I go out to a group and I'll say, 3 minutes, write all the feeling words you know. The average number of feeling words that adults put down are 11 or 12. The average. I was at the business center the other day. We had some very emotional, intelligent people there. One woman put down 30 words. And I went, that's really great. And she said, let me confess, I've seen you speak before. And so I went out after the first time and thought about, I really need to increase my emotional intelligence for my daughter.
Yeah,
Did it for her daughter.
yes.
And so that's how her vocabulary grew to 30 words, because she intentionally increased it. And I asked her, has it done any good? And she said, it's wonderful.
Oh,
It's a life changer.
And I was thinking, as you were talking about how your daughter was learning these new skills and this new language, that you were doing the same.
You know, we say the Feeling Friends. I always start off with my daughter. I created them for Feeling Friends, but they saved my life.
Yes.
Learning the skills and doing all the research and emotional intelligence. At the same time I started the Feeling Friends, Daniel Goleman wrote his first book for emotional intelligence.
Yes.
So as I'm doing research, he's going down this one path, and I'm going down this one path. I meet with teachers, psychologists, speech therapists. I'm getting all of the research for the Feeling Friends to make sure that it's curriculum sound and that it's research based. And so I'm getting all this information, and getting all this information, I'm really having to look at me as well, because when you absorb something, it becomes a part of you.
Yes.
And so all of this stuff began to come a part of myself, and I started looking and thinking, I'm changing.
I would
I'm
also
changing.
think that it's hard to impart this knowledge to other people and not have it yourself, because at some
can't.
point it starts to feel like you're a fake
It
or a
can't.
fraud.
You have to do the work.
Yes.
You have to do the work. My team members that know that work with me, you have to do the work. If you don't do the work, you can't work with me.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal is to have an entirely emotionally intelligent company, because that's the only way you can work with the Feeling Friends.
You
You have
walk
to
in
do
the
the
walk,
work. You
not
walk
just
the walk,
talking
the talk.
the
It's one of those things. And I asked God, I said, what do you want me to do with the Feeling Friends? He said, I want you to use the Feeling Friends to teach children how to identify, express, and manage their feelings. And I said, no, what do you want me to do with it? What do you want me to do? He said, I want you to use the Feeling Friends to teach people about faith, Karen. Tell them your stories. And that was in 2010. And I guess I didn't have enough stories to tell.
So if you didn't have enough stories in 2010, tell me one of the stories that has helped you to build your faith and teach people about faith.
In 2010, I was still in D.C. Feeling Friends were great. I had written my own stories, written my own songs. What was taken away from me, God instilled the skills in me to do myself. They gotten great reviews. It was just an amazing project. I'm a songwriter now. That's a joke, but it's not, because I used to learn, my style of learning is auditory. So I would create, for chemistry, I would create the tables in my head and then sing them. That's how I would pass my test. So everything I used to do to music, create to music. So I wrote.
Well, our generation grew up with conjunction, junction.
What's your function? Yes, and
looking up.
That's
Yes,
it.
I mean,
So we put everything
it's a
in
great
music.
way to learn.
Great way to learn. And so we did the songs and the music. And so one of the stories, I have so many stories of faith during that time. Let's just take a story when I drove, coming back from D.C. I had sold my house, indeed my beautiful house that I turned into the house of healing after I divorced. I bought a house, and it was the most beautiful people, not just women, would come in there, and it was just a spirit in it.
Yes.
I'd had to sell it to move back home. My Lexus was on its last leg, my truck. I was driving. I had sold my books. I've been really stripped of everything, my shoes, everything. I was coming home with enough stuff in a Lexus car. Now, I had a 4-bedroom home with an apartment at the bottom, living. So it was really.
I'm shaking my head because our stories are so.
I know.
There are so many points of connection. It's just the hair is standing up on my arm.
But it's real. People don't
Yeah,
understand. If I had come home when God really told me to come home, I would come home with an abundance. But I was refusing to leave D.C.
But I don't know what you believe. I have a friend who always says, it's the way it's supposed to be. If it was meant to be some other way, that's how it would have been.
And
so the fact that you didn't come home when you were at the height of your material abundance.
But I heard the voice saying, "Come home, Karen," and I was not going to be obedient. And no pun to Winston-Salem, but I was in D.C. and where I can go out after creating, I can go out at 2:00 in the morning if I want to and get a meal or go listen to jazz. I'm in Winston-Salem now. Restaurants didn't open on Mondays.
You're talking to you're singing to the choir.
So
here,
those,
yes.
as a creative, those are the
Yes.
kind of things that I
Yes.
used to do. And so when I came home with all of my stuff in one little Lexus, it was just devastating to me. And the radio was playing, and I heard Steve Harvey I was listening to his foolishness on the radio, and he said, if God had told you what you had to do to get to where he wanted you to be, you would have said no. And I said, that would be me.
Yes.
That would be me. Even though I knew all of the healing that I could do with people, it was really me that I was dealing with now. I was dealing with the inner me and myself. And he said, but don't stop. Don't stop doing what you're doing if it's your assignment and your purpose. So I had to look at that. That was really a shot of adrenaline for me, those words.
Yeah, and did you know then that this was your assignment and your purpose?
Oh, yeah, I knew. I created 9 books in 12 hours one night. I sat at my computer and created 9 children's books. The words just came out. I sent them to my daughter the next morning. I said, edit them for me. And she says, Mom, when did you write these? I said, last night. She said, no, when did you write all of these? And I said, last night. Last night. She said, they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. And they were. So when you get downloads like that, I know I'm on myself. It's not about me. I'm just doing the work that I'm here to do. So I knew I was on an assignment, but I didn't want to take the road that I had to take. And so I finally said, why this road? And he said, if you're going to teach about every emotion, then I need you to experience them.
Wow.
So I experienced almost homelessness. I experienced not having food. I experienced not having somewhere to stay. I experienced not having medical insurance. I've experienced all the things that people experience in this lifetime that aren't so nice. I've experienced those. So when I talk to someone about, they say this is happening, like I've even been to jail. Okay, a 6-hour stay in jail for not paying a parking ticket in D.C. $25 parking ticket.
Pay your parking ticket.
I pay your parking ticket in D.C. We since worked that problem out because I was never supposed to go. But because even my daughter said, well, you've been through everything. At least you didn't go to jail. And then she said, but you did, Mom. But you did. I forgot you did. And when people talk to me about, what they're experienced, I can honestly say I understand. So I'm not speaking from theory.
Right.
I'm speaking from authenticity. And then I can share my story of what I did to come out of it. And I just always, love was my foundation to get me out of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, what did you do to, I hear the love. So is it love of self, love of God, love of others?
It's love of God first.
Okay.
Love of self first. And always, no matter what situation I'm in, always getting myself back to love. Once I was in...
How do you get yourself back to love?
Oh, this is how you do it. Love is the most important feeling. You create these things in your head. I'm the boss of my feelings, can't you see? I manage my feelings, they don't manage me. I have all these little things that I have to use as an adult to get myself back to love, because one thing that we teach is that if you're having one of these emotions, you can stand as long as you want to, or you can move it back to love. And so getting yourself back to love is doing something that you love to do. So if I'm having a disgusted moment, I'm disgusted with someone, I'll put on my tennis shoes and go walk it out. Or I'll put on my gospel music and I may play the same song 100 times, but by the time I'm finished, I've got myself out of that emotion. And so that's the way I do it. I was at an event in Winston-Salem and someone was doing all this to me, doing all this to me, I'm this close. And then they went,
oh.
Now you know I'm from
They
Southside.
Cross the
Southside?
line.
You know I'm from Southside, right?
I don't even think you have to be from South side, North side. It doesn't matter. That's an invasion of, well, this was an invasion, but they really stepped over the line at that point.
What went through my head, I'm the boss of my feelings. Can't you see? I manage my feelings. They don't manage me. I had to get back to love real quick. I'm the boss of my feelings. That was what was playing in my head. And when I got myself to a place I can talk, I said, well, that's not the way I saw it. And I'm sorry you're feeling that way. And that was it. And so what it did for me was let me know my brand was authentic.
Yes,
My brand was very authentic.
And think about all the times when if someone had those tools, they could avoid the consequences of a rash action.
They could. I've had so many rash actions in my life. I was a staff coordinator in human resources at DC Public Schools. And the interim director was mandating something. It was the stupidest idea I've ever heard in my entire life. And my team was functioning wonderfully, and we didn't need this, but she's going to set us 2 years back to do it the way that she thought it would do. And I'm in a room with 30 people, and I put my books down, and I get up and said, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard in my entire life. And I walk out because I was in my emotions.
Yes.
I was in my emotions. I was in my emotions. And so she wrote me up for, you know, she wrote me up. But she had to come back and take it out because when the next person came in that replaced her, she said, that's the stupidest idea.
Oh, okay.
So it was validated.
Right.
But I could have handled that better had I
Right.
not been in my emotions. And so
Right.
we have so many things that happen to us in life that we just live in our emotions. So knowing how not to live in your emotions is really the key to a lot of things, of doing things in life the way they really should be done.
So what is your vision? As you say that, I'm thinking you should get on a bus or a plane and go to Washington, go back to Washington, D.C., because I think a lot of people are living in their emotions.
They are.
And we see what the result is
We see,
of that.
and it would be great if they were open.
Yes.
You know, we're still talking about feelings. People still don't want to acknowledge their feelings. They
Right.
really do not want to acknowledge their feelings, even that they have them. A friend of mine, a mentor of mine, Connie, said that I need to make a new feeling friend. And it was numb. Numb. People are numb. And so
Yes.
we've come up with Nancy and maybe a male feeling, the numb newt. The numb newt. People are numb to their emotions now with so many things happening. And being numb to them is just like the same thing as not acknowledging them.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So they're living in their emotions because they don't know how
It's
to
like
manage them.
overload.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that people are just overloaded
It
with
is.
all of these things coming at them these days.
Social media, everything it's too much.
Yes.
You know, I unplug many days. I just unplug. I have to unplug because it's just an overload. And then I will, if you ask me what I do when I'm doing nothing, I turn on Ratchet TV. I do.
Which would be
Housewives of Atlanta. This whole housewife show. You know, all those things like that. All that foolishness.
The toxic,
flipping out.
Toxic TV is what I call it.
I
Yes,
do, because then
yes.
I see all of the things that, even though a lot of it's scripted, I see the problems that people are handling
Right.
and how they're using their emotions and how they're not managing their emotions. And then I say,
Right.
oh, you're still needed. You are still needed. If people on those shows, and that's what our children are watching, and that's what frightens me.
Yeah.
If people on their shows really understood how to manage their emotions, that whole business would go out of business.
So the Feeling Friends is for what age group? What age group do you target with the Feeling Friends?
I target preschool.
Okay.
Preschool right now. But as it was explained to me, if you haven't been taught this,
Right.
you're an adult, you're walking around in a preschool mind.
Right.
You haven't learned what you need to
Right.
learn as a child. So,
So is there a vision to, I know we've got Numb Nancy and the Numb Newt, the Numb, but is there a vision in the future to expand this to adults?
oh yes.
Yes.
Oh yes, and that's why when we do training, adults participate so well, and our training is just fabulous because we get you to look at your mountains in your life and the mountains that you haven't climbed and the mountains you need to squash. We get you to look at the hills and mountains that are holding you back. And it's amazing. I was in Atlanta and we did training one day, and one mountain, the lady, she found she had a fear. She was being, bullied in the workplace. Just fear. And we say, share your feelings with someone you trust. She trusted me.
Yes.
She trusted me with that emotion. And so being human resources trained, everything I've done in life, I know what to do.
Right.
Many resources, I manually reported it. That team was on it just like that. And they handled that problem for her. And she wrote me an email thanking me.
Yes.
That was the first time she was able to express her emotions.
Right.
And in being able and trusting to express her emotions, she got relief. That's what the Feeling Friends does. It gives you the power. It empowers you to express your emotions. We were in Anaheim, California for a convention, and one lady, we did our workshop, and we said, what would it get for you to talk about your feelings? And we had satisfied everything on their list. And I said, I just need one person to come up. And the one person that came up, she put on Angie the Angry Tiger. And she said, I am feeling angry because I have to take care of my grandchildren, and this is not what I signed on for.
Yes. Yes.
How many people do we know like that? And she said, this is the first time I have said this to anybody. It was so powerful. And I said, now that you have expressed it, identified, expressed it, what are you going to do with that information? She said, I'm getting back to love.
Ah.
And I'm going home, and I'm going to love on my grandchildren, and I'm going to teach them about this and teach them about love. She said, because they're angry too.
Yes.
Another generation.
Well,
they're
it's
angry
like
too.
John Bradshaw says, you know, family is like a mobile. You can't move one part. There
You
can't be
can't.
something going on without something else happening
can't.
in the other parts of the mobile. So what's your vision for the Feeling Friends in the next 5 years?
Oh, it becomes a global brand, you know. We'll get research and evidence based. Right now, we're getting ready to work with the UNC School of Social Work, and we're bringing other disciplines across UNC.
Yes.
Go Heels.
What a wonderful school.
What a wonderful school. We're getting ready to have some conversations with UNC TV. What a
That's
wonderful school.
fabulous.
Isn't that fabulous?
Yes.
And we see it really going mobile based and doing an app, because what we want children to learn at school, we want them to be able to take it home. But since the brand, you asked the age range, our age range is really, my mom used to say, from cradle to grave.
Yes.
Because how many older people do you know that don't know how to express their feelings?
Right.
And so our music is such that all styles of music, the books are just wonderful. We just see it leaving the world off. You know, God has told me one of my assignments is to leave the world emotionally better off than I found it. So
And then leave the world better off
emotionally than I found
than you
it.
found it. And so what are some of the other tasks that you feel God has set forth for you?
I feel that eventually one day I'll sell the company, because somebody can make it bigger than I can and do
Right,
more.
right.
And then my task is to become boots on the ground.
Okay.
And boots on the ground for us means mobilizing a Feeling Friends team, or teams of people, Feeling Friends, that have the training that we do and that know how to become boots on the ground if there is an emergency, if there's a flood, if there's a school shooting. Feeling Friends, boots on the ground is in there immediately.
Yes.
Corporate jet comes to pick us up. We're there within 15 hours, 16 hours, because our bags are packed.
Right.
And so that's what I see us doing within the next 5 to 10 years, doing the real work, going places that we can just mobilize and do the real work and dealing with, helping people deal with their emotions in times of trouble.
And how is that going to affect Karen? We've talked about the business. So what does the success of the business then, and I don't know if you've even thought about that, but perhaps you have. What's the vision for Karen?
The vision of Karen is to do the work. You know, when I was talking to God one time, he just told me, just do the work. When you're in a state of, how do I say this? When you're at your lowest and you're having conversations with God, you're saying, I don't know how I got here, you know? And on there, or just do the work. Just do the work. And I've been doing the work. We have 52 stories that are already done that I can just roll out tomorrow with illustrations. So I did the work. Knowing that I did the work, knowing that I came to this earth, fulfill my assignment, and leaving the world off better emotionally than when I found it, knowing that children are able to express their emotions at a very early age when they're in situations when people are asking them how they feel and they need help.
Yes.
And they really need help. Knowing that they're able to do that and they're using their Feeling Friends language, I am feeling blank because. Knowing that husbands and wives can be united if they can get to the place to where they can really express their emotions and learn how to work on them, and being transparent. Knowing that children who lose their mothers and fathers at early ages have the tools to express their emotions, to get the help that they need at a younger age. Knowing that mothers who have given their children up for adoption and their children come back and find them, and knowing that they can use the Feeling Friends to be that bridge to bring them back together, You know, knowing that these little babies, these characters, and the work that we've done will do all of that and so much more emotionally for people, just make the world a better place, then that's what I'm about. That's doing the work, making sure that the work gets out there so that we really can become emotionally whole.
And as an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
when you come up against obstacles and challenges, which every entrepreneur does, but I
Yes.
think when you're a Black woman,
Mm-hmm.
the challenges can be magnified.
Mm-hmm.
How do you push through, and what do you tell people who have that question for you?
It took me 8 years to raise capital. 8 years, and right after I raised it, the stats came out, or I read the stats that at that time, 0.2% of African American women ever raised capital, and the average amount raised is $30,000.
Which
What-
is a drop in the bucket when you're
What could I do with $30,000?
right.
I just knew that I was on a God assignment. That's just what, and that I could not give up on my God assignment. And that would not be what anybody would ever say when they said ashes to ashes, dust to dust, here are ashes. They would never say that about me. It's just, I knew deep down inside, because I could look back at my life and I could say, you know, I grew up in a little theater of Winston-Salem, theater background. I got my degree in communications background. I did human resources background. Even did some producing for Seven on Your Side and production background. I took business classes. My journey, I've done everything that I need to be right here today.
Right,
You know,
right.
to run a company. So if you say that, the only thing I haven't tackled is that social media thing, and I'm not going to even try to do that. I'm just going to hire.
All you need is some teenagers.
I need some
Just get
teenagers for
yourself
that.
Some teenagers, and you'll be fine.
No
with the
social media hat on me.
Yes.
But all of the things that I've done,
Right.
you know, have put me to the spot of where I am now. So I just tell people, continue doing the work. Continue doing the work. When people tell you no, continue to work. You don't know the number of rejections
Yes.
that I got. I cannot even begin to count. And at first it hurt because I took them personally. But then I realized you just weren't the person. You know, I did that. You just weren't the person, the right
Or
person.
they weren't the right
they weren't
to
the right person.
partner with you.
Yeah, that's what I said. They weren't
Yes.
the person. They weren't the person. And so when the right partners came along, it was right. It was good. It was amazing. And so once those right partners came along that gave me the opportunity to build my kit, you know, everybody else starts coming along. It's the avenues are just opening up now for me. It takes the right partners, and then I got another partner mentor that came along, and it just, she's opening doors. I call her
Yes.
my angel. Connie's my
Yes.
angel. She's my angel. So I got the right 3 partners, Ty, Rod, and Trinity. They were my financial partners. Then Connie comes along, and it's just the right team is there. I got great mentors, Doug and Tom and Mona. You know, everybody's there now.
Yes.
And believe it, I tell you, I could be part of the problem why it took so long, because I asked God, I said, send me a team of believers that understand what I want to do.
Right.
I should have said, send me a team of believers today. I didn't put a time. Quickly. But it did not, you know, they came.
I'm
Mary
not sure
Kay.
if that time thing
I know.
works with.
That time, yeah.
I don't know if asking
I
for
tell
it
people, put a time limit on it.
quickly.
Well,
Yes, in terms of maybe how long you're going to pursue
Right.
something.
Right.
But I don't know if God takes those, time.
I'm starting putting times on it,
requests.
just in case.
You let me know if that works out.
Because I said, send me a team, and I got a team of believers. They're there now, you know. And so
Yeah.
I asked for that, and it came along.
Yes.
It just took a while to get it, because it has to
But do
send the
you
right
ever
people.
wonder if it had happened really quickly? Maybe.
I wasn't ready.
Yes.
I wasn't ready. As I said, the thing, I had to be authentic in what I'm telling people, not theory. So I needed to go through that whole set of things, all of that rejection, all of the things that we consider in life that are just horrible. And I look back on them, and I'm actually saying now, well, it really wasn't that bad. I made it through it. It really wasn't that bad. When I was in it, it was horrible. It was that no one would take my call, because I'm talking about emotions. No one would take my call. No one would have an appointment with me. You're just going, wow, but isn't this the way it's supposed to be?
Yeah, Mark Victor Hansen says no means next opportunity.
Next opportunity, and I agree with that. Next opportunity. And so when you start getting that in your spirit, no means next opportunity, it's amazing. It's amazing. So now when I hear no, it's okay, no problem, thank you, thank you, but I'm hearing more yeses now than I'm hearing no's, because people are actually starting to look at this emotional intelligence piece. And they're saying, I am firmly convinced I will have an emotional intelligence staff. Firmly convinced, because you have to be on the same wavelength. You have to have the same vibrations.
Right.
And so that's what I'm looking for. Otherwise, something is thrown off.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we see the repercussions of a lack of emotional intelligence.
We do.
Yes.
We do. So we see what it looks like when you don't have it.
Yes.
And I'm glad to see it, because it's showing the world now how important it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
Did we talk long enough?
I
We can talk anytime.
I'm sitting here thinking, boy, I don't know what your situation is in your personal life, but I'm thinking you're
my personal
so
life is
emotionally evolved that I would think for some people that feels threatening.
It is. It is. You got to come to me right. Because
Okay.
I can't. It's hard, you got to do the work. I can't do the work for you.
Right.
And I've done my work, and I'm so protective of my work that I've done on me.
And you've raised a child, so you don't
Oh
need
my
to
gosh.
do that again.
No, I don't want to do that again.
Right.
And so if you approach me and I'm just who I am, Karen, have you done your work? Have you done your work? Where are you emotional? I started asking the questions immediately, so most people don't approach
Just
me.
weed them out.
You can weed them out real quick, because
Yes.
if you got a lot of baggage, I don't do baggage. It's amazing. I was in a conference one time. I go to lots of conferences to learn, and he explained it to, I'm in love. Two people, I'm in love, and I'm like, that's great. It's great. Let's get in the car. They both get in the car, but they can't get in because each of them have 14 pieces of baggage.
Oh my gosh.
So they got all, divorce, they haven't gotten over, this they haven't gotten over, rejection they haven't gotten over. So until I've shed a lot of my baggage, now I still have a couple pieces, I really do. Everybody got some stuff, but I don't have.
You want to share one piece of baggage? I mean,
Of course,
yes,
of course.
so-
I still have baggage with rejection.
Okay.
I do.
Now, you're talking about personal or professional? Because
Personal.
we were just talking, okay.
You were personal. I still have baggage with rejection. That, my parents divorcing at 8, and my father, it was so funny. At first he wanted us to stay, and we had to stay with him because my mom didn't have anywhere to go. She didn't have a job, so 6 weeks later she had a job. She was staying home. She had a job. She had a new townhouse for us. And in those 6 weeks, my mother called my father and said, you can bring the children on Saturday. He had us there at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, ringing my mama's doorbell, dropped us off, gone. And so that piece, that was rejection for me, abandonment. Those two pieces I still struggle with. After all the therapy, just being honest, after all said and done. So in a personal relationship, if you say you're going to do something, you got to do it. Otherwise, I can easily go back there very quickly.
It's 8 o'clock on Saturday
It's 8 o'clock
morning
on Saturday
again.
morning. And I have to talk myself out of this. Is not 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. This is not 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. This is a great relationship. But I still can go back there. So you never, ever... For me, I never lost those emotions.
Right.
I just learned how to manage them.
Right.
I just said, little girl, 8-year-old, sit down. It's not 8 o'clock on Saturday mornings. Sit down. So that's a personal one. And that's really real for people. It's my daughter, through the divorce of ours, she has worked at this piece. And so she had the tools up in life. But still, she still uses the tools at 31 that I taught her at 6. Yeah.
And how does that impact your relationship with her?
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Sometimes she's too emotional and intelligent, because one thing of an emotional, intelligent person, they don't always say yes. Okay? They don't always say yes. I want my daughter to say yes to me. Any crazy thing I say, I do. Lon, I need you to do this. I need you to do this. And she'll go, no. And I'm like,
That's not allowed.
That's not allowed. I'll tell her, I gave birth to you. And she says, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
My answer is no.
And I always say they cut the cord for a reason.
Yeah,
So
children, but still, and so she's very emotional intelligent, so she will say no, and that's a hard no for me. That's a hard no, but it impacts her. She's very emotional intelligent, and I love it because I see that in this lifetime, she didn't have to go the road that I went. It was a different and a much easier road for her. With depression, she still suffers from depression. Never leaves. She has the tools to deal with it. She has the tools. So when she's in a relationship, she tells people, you know, I suffer from depression.
Right.
Yeah, she's very, but she has the tools. She's always had the tools. So she's wonderful. She's an entrepreneur. She loves what she does. She has a service industry. So it's just wonderful.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So we cut the cord.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's meant to be cut.
And no more generational curses.
Yes. No more hand-me-down.
And dreams.
Dreams.
Yes. We have them of our own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You're
this
welcome.
has been amazing.
This has been amazing.
And I
It
look
has.
forward to seeing what happens with the Feeling Friends and with you.
It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Our trajectory right now is great. We always end things. You'll have what's the most important feeling? And you
Love.
What's the most important feeling?
Love.
What's the most important feeling?
Love.
Love.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Love is the most important feeling.
And thank you for joining us. We'll see you at the next conversation.
The next conversation. That was awesome, Wilder. It was a conversation.
Everything is a conversation.
Everything's a conversation.
Hi, I'm Angela Wilder. Welcome to Conversations. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Karen Cuthrell, the founder of the Feeling Friends. Karen, hi.
Hey. Hey, Wilder.
Karen, thank you so much for this great conversation.
You're welcome, Wilder.
I learned so much, and I'm sure everybody listening did too.
I hope so.
And thank you for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next Conversations.
Hey, Atlanta Head Start, it's Miss KK. How you doing with your training? After your training, are you really on your emotional journey? Are you using those skills that we taught you? Are you stuffing down those mountains? Are you going over those hills? Or did you go directly, I am feeling blank because, and go directly to Lotta Love's house? Don't forget what we trained you on. It is the most valuable information that you can ever use. I am feeling blank because. Identify, express, and manage your feelings and get to Lotta Love's house real quick. Remember, you are the CEO of your emotions. You are the chief emotional officer. Repeat after me. I'm the boss of my feelings. I'm the boss of my feelings. Can't you see? Can't you see? I manage my feelings. I manage my feelings. They don't manage me. They don't manage me. Learn how to manage your feelings so you can take those skills into the classrooms to help the babies. Signing off now. What's the most important feeling? Love. What's the most important feeling? Love. What's the most important feeling? And it is love. And I love you. Bye-bye.